Great. Good evening, everyone. It is the 22nd of December, and this is a public hearing of the Town of Durham's Board of Appeals. I'm Barbara Schneider. I serve as chair of the board. The members of the board and the alternates who are here, go ahead and introduce yourselves. We'll start. Let's just go alphabetically. So that would put you up first, Dean.
Yeah, hi, Dean Clark, Woodland Road.
Next would be Paul. Yep.
Paul First, Chesley Hill Road.
Terry, I think you're next, right?
Terry Kirk, Noel Brook Road.
Heather
Heather Roy, Hollowell Road.
and Milt. Oh, you're still mute, I think, Milt.
Sorry about that. I'm Milt Simon. I live on the Stackpole Road.
All right. I see one other person who is identified as Dan. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Dan, can you unmute your mic?
Let's see if I can. I don't think I can.
Can
There we
you
go.
hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Oh, this is Dan from the Auburn Pownell Road.
Okay. And Dan, I'm wondering if Dan, are you a party to this? Are you in any way representing Mr. Dennison, or are you an interested party and or neighbor?
Interested party.
Okay. I don't see Mr. Dennison here. Might he be on the phone?
Oh,
No, she's asking for him now.
Mr. Dennison, are you on this Zoom hearing for your matter? It doesn't sound as if he is, but we have another bit of business that we can attend to.
When you have
Before
a moment, Ruth,
Gary, are you going to ask Dean, are you going to ask if he might be on the phone? We would see him, I believe, if he was dialed in simply by phone. Ah, there we go. We have a few more people appearing.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay.
Let me get, let's see what I gotta do here. Start video.
Okay, there we
And
go.
I gotta go. Yep.
We were actually just beginning to convene. Gary, perhaps you are another member for those who are in the listening to us who are not familiar with the board. Gary also is a member of the Board of Appeals. So Gary, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Gary Wood. I lived on Bowie Hill Road for about 21 or 2 years. I live in Portland now.
Okay.
And I've been on the board for about 35 years or longer. Never mind.
And then I do see someone who's joined us by telephone with a number 577-0726. Is this Mr. Dennison, perhaps?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Good
great.
evening.
Perfect.
Good evening.
I don't know.
And then we also have Bob Forrest, and then a neighbor. Before we get to the matter of Mr. Dennison's appeal, we do have one set of minutes from our previous meeting that were sent out to us by Kathy Dion about a week and a half ago.
Ruth, if you have a moment.
I do note that Gary had submitted a correction. I have to acknowledge I hadn't read them until right before the meeting yesterday. I believe there's a second correction in the second vote. I recall that we voted to deem the bins as structures, which is exactly opposite of what the minutes reflect.
Well, we did vote that the bins were structures. I must have missed that.
Right. So I would like to, if all of you saw Gary's change to the minutes, which was to add subject to selectmen's approval in the paragraph he alerted us to. And if we remove the word not from the vote on the structures, those minutes would reflect that previous meeting. Unless anyone has any other issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, Barbara. So
Okay.
do you want us to just move that, correction and pass it?
Yes, that would be
Okay, I
ideal,
move
Gary.
that the minutes be corrected as Barbara just stated, to remove the word not in relation to the decision on structures.
Okay. And also to make the amendment that Gary had suggested by email.
So we need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Terry. All in favor? Aye.
Are we all voting? Who's on? I guess those who
Well-
are participating in the decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
and I can vote on the first part and Paul can vote on the second part in effect.
Barbara, I think you need to do, for the record, I think you need to do a roll call to get, as opposed to just looking for people to raise their hand.
Okay, that's right. So, Paul, how would you vote for the minutes? Because you were, in effect, a member for a portion of the meeting.
Vote to approve.
Dean,
I'm sorry, I'm not missing the point.
on the minutes from our previous meeting,
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
so roll call vote, and you approve. Okay, Milt
I vote to approve.
and Gary. Gary?
I vote to approve, and I would just note, Barbara, we should either make my email part of the records, add subject to the approval of the selectmen after we gave approval to the CEO to issue the permit for the junkyard.
Okay, yes, we will include that. And then Terry.
I approve.
Okay. There is a second matter before we get to the appeal that I just want to alert the Board of Appeals to. As you all may know, the town had voted at its last election to move to a town manager selectman form of government. And the town now is in the process of doing a needs assessment for that position. I would like to spend just a minute asking you all, in effect, one of the things I think is very important, and I thought perhaps I would draft a letter to this effect to the selectmen. I believe, and I think others may agree or not agree, but that it is very important that any town manager hired by this town is extremely well-versed in current land use issues and ordinance drafting and design. As you all know, we are facing some significant growth in this town as reflected in the amount of activity that we have seen, as reflected in the amount of activity that the planning board has seen. And I think as a board, if we were to express a sentiment that it is our belief that high on the list of criteria for any town manager would be familiarity and experience in shepherding a town that is facing growth pressures through a process of addressing that.
Mm.
And, you know, we can talk about that briefly, but I just think there's a way to write that letter from us, and I'm happy to draft something and to send it to all of you for review. Gary? You have it?
Yeah, Barbara, the only extent that I would go to in terms of supporting that would be to say that to the extent possible, rather than saying it should be a major criteria. My experience with town and city managers is that managing the business is their first and foremost obligation, and that within that context, they often have to reach out, if they're good, to experts, because it is such a complicated matter now that, and I'd like to hear what Paul has to say about it, because, you know, he's been a manager, but I would, in my mind, in all honesty, I would want a manager, if I were to lay out criteria, who's extremely knowledgeable in municipal and school finance. And in terms of land use, I would really expect them to have to and be willing to use, you know, outside counsel and experts to help them with the issues that you've articulated, because the manager is really not, by the nature of the position, supposed to be a major player in terms of policy decisions, like what are the town ordinances going to say or not say. I think that crosses a line that I was always uncomfortable with when managers saw fit to say, well, here's an ordinance that we should really pass. And it's okay to do that as long as you say why. But to take leadership role on something as broad-based and complicated as land use in the town of Durham, I don't know. I'm just a little uncomfortable with it. That's just my initial reaction.
Paul, because you were
You
nodding.
know what I'm getting?
Yeah, well, you know, I think I agree with much of what both of you are saying. I think that there's, you know, it's a tough job because a lot is demanded of the individual. And I think it will be especially tough for this new manager because not only are they doing the management of staff and the management of the financial side and budget and all those other things, but I'm wondering if there's also maybe a significant kind of administration role related to the everyday administration, because I don't see someone in that administrative assistant role. So I suspect whoever they hire, they're going to have their hands full. Of course, this is also, it's going to be new for Durham. So there's going to be quite a bit of negotiation, and I think finding our way between the new manager and the board. But it's certainly good to have, you know, some knowledge of land use. And of course, you know, I went from being a planner to being a town manager, which was, I guess, isn't that out of the ordinary, but it certainly assisted me on those issues. Now in New Gloucester, we had a full-time town planner. So we had someone to take that role. In Durham, you don't really have that. So certainly having a good understanding, for example, of the duties of the individual departments, for example, fire and rescue, public works, code enforcement, and how that relates to land use planning. You know, I would say yes, but finding a good manager is always dependent on the pool of candidates that you get. And so I think that caveat that Gary offered is an important one, which is to the extent possible, because they may find themselves faced with trade-offs. It always depends on who else is out looking for a manager and who's willing to step up, who's available. So, but I think but I certainly appreciate the sentiment, and maybe there's something there that we could, you know, that Barbara, that you could write in that vein that would just say to the extent possible, and, you know, recognizing that the, you know, primary role of this individual is the management of the different departments, and within that, you know, falls code enforcement and zoning board of appeals and all those other things that are certainly important, especially at this time, given the development pressures that we're under, especially in this, real estate market that we're in right now.
Right. So why don't I try just a brief note or letter that we all can look at that gets something to them, and we can decide, we send it as a board or we don't. But I just wanted to put that out there. I think
Okay,
it's
that's
important.
good. Yeah.
I think in talking with Bob, having someone that really can assist in his role in interpreting, it's sometimes challenging with, part-time boards. Having that other person in the office in town that can be a go-to for Bob as a resource as well. I mean, that's part of it, because from my perspective, and we do now have a part-time planner, Paul. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that, but it's not a
Yeah.
person who's in the office every day, certainly.
Right.
And I don't know exactly how that person's duties are divided currently. But, I know ordinance it could be so complex, and every question you get is different.
Right.
And, as you guys know, there's a lot of interpretation involved. And it's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing to have someone to be able to say, look, I just had this person and they asked this question, and this is what I'm thinking. This is the answer that I came up with. Does that make sense to you too?
Right. And that's really what I'm getting at, is someone that, that provides that additional level of staff support in that area with some kind of, anyway, let me try to put pen to paper. I don't want to belabor this too much because we do have a matter before us and people waiting for us. But I think it's worthwhile because we know what we have seen, frankly, I think. So.
Okay.
You guys are free to kind of say, nope, let's not do this, or let's do it. All right, so let's move on to the item on our agenda is Mr. Dennison's request for a variance for his property located at 184 Auburn Pownell Road. And as we typically do, we tend to open our matters by having the codes enforcement officer give us a brief overview of the circumstances. And then we would invite Mr. Dennison, to explain the basis for the request, or if there are, and to answer after that, to answer questions from the board. Does everyone agree with that process?
Yes.
All right. So Bob, would you give us a brief overview, please?
Sure. Alvin asked me probably last year, I believe, about putting a mobile home out there. And at that time, the ordinance read that you could have 2 dwellings per lot before the December 19th ordinance was done. So prior to that, what I had been doing is allowing this if they had the frontage and the lot acreage for the second lot. Because if they ever did have to split it, they would both be conforming lots. So that was my approach to the whole thing. And now, since the December 19th ordinance last year, the language was changed to only allow 1 dwelling per lot. So that's kind of where we are right now. And I spoke with Alvin again this year, and I explained that you'd have to break a piece off to be able to do that. And that's what our ordinance reads. And that's about it.
Can I ask?
Do we want to hear, Barbara, from
Yeah.
the applicant before
Yes.
we
Before we begin to
start
ask
asking questions?
Exactly. Terry, if that's all right. Well, let's hold our questions until we have Mr. Dennison basically explain the situation to us from his perspective.
Okay, hi, everybody. I assume that everybody's read my appeal that I wrote and submitted to the board. Is that correct? Is that a reasonable
Yes.
assumption?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory there, but I do remember asking last year about, I wasn't specifically referring to the mobile home at that point. It was just, he was explaining the new laws that were coming into effect about, I was wondering about dividing my property off into lots at that point. But that really was just not relevant to this matter here. But so, like I was saying, I had asked him previously about getting a permit to move a mobile home onto my site that had previously been a mobile home site. And I explained in my letter there everything about that. And what my point was, and that I was referring to section 16.5, non-conforming structures, paragraph C, which concerned reconstruction or replacement of any non-conforming building or use, as it says there, which is hereafter, and I believe that refers to hereafter the activation of the new ordinance. You would have a 3-year period to restore that non-conforming building. That was my point that I was making as far as the ordinance was concerned. And I also had other extenuating circumstances about the variance issue because of my concern about moving my mom and my sister back onto that site, which is, as you read, is formerly a site, a site that was used and established early on. So that's basically what I'm saying, I guess. So if you have any questions.
Terry, did you want to ask your question now? I also had one, but you had one that you wanted to ask of Bob, it sounded like.
Yes, I wanted to know the page number and the section that Bob was referring to in the ordinance.
Well,
The one lot, which section? The one lot per one dwelling per lot?
Yes,
Yeah, page 9. It's section 4.1A2. Sorry, Bob, but I thought I looked it up
no, that's
earlier.
fine.
4.1A2. And if everyone wants to turn to that, it's on page 9.
are you reading from the old ordinances or the new ordinances, Barbara?
I'm reading from the new ordinance, amended 12/9/2019. It says, minimum access to lots in the rural residential and agricultural district only one single-family detached dwelling or two-family dwelling shall be permitted on a lot. No dwelling shall be erected except on a lot that fronts on a street as defined, and the minimum street frontage measured along the lot line at the street shall be at least equal to the minimum lot width.
What section is that?
4.1A2.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I have some questions, Barbara, but did you want to ask one first?
No, I just want to make sure, Terry, are you set, Terry? Do you have any other questions?
No, I
right
got
now?
it. I got it.
Okay. Sure, Gary, go ahead.
I'm
please.
so far at a I'm so far, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not able to pull up. Oh, there we go. I finally got the ordinance. Bob, these are for Bob. When did Mr. Dennison formally request permission this year from you to move that mobile home on? And how was that done? Was it in a letter or did he come into the office?
He came into the office, and the date of my letter is October 29th of this year.
And so he came in on that date. Now, am I mistaken that the new ordinance didn't go into effect until November 3rd or something of this year? Am I in the right year?
Well, there were parts that were revised, and the revisions are dated on the page of the ordinance. So if it says November 3rd, 2020, then that was the new adoption. If it says 12/19/19, that's the ordinance that the town also voted on last year.
So Gary,
Okay.
maybe I can simplify this. At the election, we did some changes to districts and added districts. The previous amendment to the ordinance is
Okay.
what addressed the single dwelling on a lot issue. So
Okay, and that
yes,
was in December of 2019 or
That's correct.
thereabouts. Okay, yeah. Well, that was my first question. I just wanted to make sure we were working with the ordinance that is applicable. The other question I have, and I guess it would go to Mr. Dennison. In his letter, the code officer suggested that an avenue for you to obtain the approval that you need is for you to create a lot that conforms with the town's lot requirements, on which would be the pad, the mobile home pad that you already have set with utilities. What is it about that suggestion, if anything, that causes problems for you?
For me,
Yes.
is that, yeah. Well, he's, what he wants me to do is to create another lot, which would require, I believe he said, another road to that lot, and that, you know, it was already previously established site there, and so I didn't believe that I should have to, and because of the paragraph C on the restructuring or replacement paragraph, that it allows me to do that within a 3-year period if I provide the you know, qualifications that it requires, and which
Okay.
that it
Yeah,
does if you read that paragraph.
Mhm.
That's,
Yeah. Well, let me just, if I may, Barbara, then ask Bob, does the ordinance require Mr. Dennison to have a separate access road to this new lot? I thought I read somewhere in the current ordinance that you can actually have two lots off of one driveway, essentially. Is that
Well,
incorrect?
one has to be a back lot. The new one would have to be a back lot because he doesn't have 600 feet of road frontage.
When you say 600
Really? Okay, I didn't.
You mean there's not 600 feet
All
on
right, I'm gonna
Auburn
have to-
Pownell?
I don't believe he has 600 feet of road frontage, and that's the issue. I said that you would need to create a back lot, and any back lot requires 300 feet of road frontage on a 50-foot wide right-of-way.
So the driveway that you show, Mr. Dennison,
Mhm.
is how wide is the driveway?
Well, it could be, well, I'm not sure, 20 feet or something like that.
I mean,
I'm not sure, or more. Depends.
and so between the garage, because I mean, I'm assuming the issue with making that driveway 50 feet has to do with the spacing of the garage to your home. I mean, a road, I mean,
Well,
how much, is it a 56? I'm having trouble too understanding the parcel from the drawing. Is the parcel 56 acres?
yes,
Okay. And you don't know how much frontage you have on the Auburn Pownell Road then, right?
well, I do know that, yes. I don't know it off the top of my head here. I'm not, I'd have to look at my,
390.
deed.
How much do you show,
It's
Bob?
what?
390. So he has the room to put a 50-foot wide right-of-way in and keep his lot conforming.
Both lots conforming.
Well,
mean-
one
Yeah.
would have to be a back lot.
Right, right. So, but it might require relocating an existing access to the back lot.
Well,
Yeah,
Because-
and that's the requirement of a back lot right-of-way. You need to have a 300-foot frontage, 200 feet deep, and 5 acres.
Right. So I mean, from my perspective, here's my concern, Mr. Dennison, about 16.5C. It really goes to a circumstance where the structure is, for some reason, accidentally destroyed. And that's not what we had here. We
Well-
had a removal of the structure, and there is a provision in our ordinance that says once you make a non-conforming use conforming by taking away the non-conformance, we can't make it non-conforming again. So, I mean,
Well,
yeah, I'll let you talk.
well, so it says, which is hereafter damaged or destroyed by fire, flood, lightning, wind, structural failure, or other accidental cause may be restored or reconstructed. So, and I pointed out that the floors in the mobile home had structural issues. And therefore, was one of the reasons that my mother wanted to leave it, because she couldn't afford the upkeep of it. And which was, so, and I'm feeling that, that it was, when it says I have a 3-year period to replace that, after the new ordinance, that I should be able to do that.
Well, the problem with that is the mobile home was removed in 2007.
Yeah, but that shouldn't matter because there wasn't an ordinance against it being there in 2007. So the law didn't come into effect until December of 2019. So that's from that period on is when you start counting the 3-year period. It doesn't matter when my mobile home was removed because it wasn't an issue at that point. It only become an issue after the implementation of the ordinance, and then you have a 3-year period to.
Yeah, if I may, Barbara,
Sure.
Mr. Dennison, I agree with Barbara. I can understand the way you're looking at it, but that ordinance that you're citing is designed and intended only to allow someone to replace a non-conforming structure that was totally destroyed. If you had left your mobile home there and within, and you wanted to upgrade it to the point where it was more livable, then that might have been allowed back in 2007 because you had a non-conforming structure, and if you had showed it to Bob or whoever the CEO was, and he agreed, yeah, you got major structural issues, well, he would have let you fix those then. But let me finish. But once you remove the structure, your claim to structural infirmity no longer applies. It's gone. There's nothing there for you to repair.
I disagree with you because.
So I agree with Barbara.
At the point when the building was a conforming building. It was a conforming structure before the ordinance came in. Now it becomes a non-conforming building because of the new ordinance. And whether
but our ordinance, Mr. Dennison, prohibits you from creating a non-conforming structure from the, on your lot. Our ordinance prohibits
I have a site.
You can't.
I have the site. I have a constructed site there, excavated with. If you read my letter, with water pipe from the house. I have a septic system. I have power poles there and hurricane.
Yeah. I think we all understand that. I think, Mr. Dennison, what we're trying to do is help you figure out a way to do what you want to do within the requirements and language of the ordinance, because what you're asking us to do, quite frankly, at least, in my opinion, and as I read the ordinance, we can't allow you to do. But if we can explore a little bit more this creation of another lot there with the required access, then I think, and we have to get
I don't want another lot.
To help with.
I don't want another lot.
We understand that.
This is one piece of property which I had established a site. It was an established site there.
Yeah.
Which had a mobile home on it at one point in time. And just because it was removed before your new ordinance came into effect, shouldn't affect that. I should have a 3-year period to restore it.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure. There may be others on the board who are reading the ordinance in conformance with the way you're interpreting it. But the other problem that I have is in 16.4C. I mean, if you had kept, we just don't allow a non-conformance which becomes conforming. And I guess I understand it may be that it was a conforming use before, but the whole point of non-conformance is when ordinance change, we recognize it makes invalid things that previously were valid. So if there was still a mobile home there, right? You had a mobile home, it was conforming because our old ordinance said 2 dwellings could exist on a lot. We passed an ordinance, you had 2 dwellings on the lot, that would be a non-conformance. But once you've removed the dwelling, it's a conforming lot back then, and it can only be a conforming lot going forward. You removed anything that made it non-conforming. I don't see how we can save this for you this way. It just,
So, okay, so let me ask you but now if I had a foundation in the ground built and had put a floor on it and had all the essential work done like I did on my mobile home site, the septics and water and power and everything, and then I wasn't able to finish it, and then you came up with this new ordinance. Now I wouldn't be able to finish the building.
you have a year. In that case, as I read the ordinance 16.4C, if there was a non-conforming use, right? You had a foundation or a small structure or something there, right? We pass an ordinance, but it wasn't being used. You've got a year to get it going again. And you guys, that's
Since
16.4.
the new ordinance, is that what you're saying? Or before the new ordinance?
No, you would have a year after, with the new ordinance, it would give you a year. That's
So,
16.
Yeah,
so I don't understand.
I think the old ordinance had a very similar requirement.
Yeah,
It did.
it did.
Barbara, would it be okay if I chimed in with a comment? I know I'm not one of the
All right.
official board members.
I'm hearing some feedback. I'm not sure, is there anyone who's got anything else going on?
Not
Okay.
me.
That sounds a little bit better, but, all right.
Barbara?
Paul, go ahead, please.
Okay, great, thank you. So, reading through the application, I think that Mr. Dennison certainly did a great job of articulating his application, I thought, expressing his concerns and laying it out for us. I actually thought it was a pretty well-written application, that he did a good job with it. But kind of the bottom line for me is that when you read 16.5C, in accordance with that section, and the intent of that section is that the has to have been damaged or destroyed after the enactment date of the ordinance. That's the intent of that language, is to cover a circumstance where you have a non-conforming building, okay? And then it's damaged or destroyed after the enactment of the ordinance. So I don't think it really applies to this situation. That's my 2 cents. I mean, on the other hand, I do have some concerns, which are probably neither here nor there with regard to, this change in the ordinance.
No.
But unfortunately, we are committed to having to stick by the ordinance by law. That's our charge. And it's just trying to be fair to everyone in that respect.
Okay. Can I comment on that?
Sure.
So you say that non-conforming, the building had to be there. So if somebody had a house or the non-conforming building, say I had a mobile home there a week before, and it burnt down or fell down, well, now I wouldn't be able to replace it. because
I don't think that's correct.
because it was
If you
destroyed
have
the week
something
before.
there.
What's that? I can't
Somebody has got
understand.
something, somebody's got
Interruption.
something going in the background. I don't know if it's a radio or a TV or, I don't know if other people can hear that, but it's making it really hard for me to hear
Yeah, it is.
unless it's internet wacko. I don't know.
I think people that aren't speaking should mute their
Um,
mics.
Dean, could you mute your mic, Dean?
No, there's no sound coming from here.
Yeah, I think I've
Okay.
got mine on. I've got mine on. Maybe, I think what we discovered last time was
There's
if we
some background.
weren't talking, we turn it off, right? And that, yeah. First, Mr. Dennison, I'm quite sure, although I don't have the past ordinances in front of me, that the section that you're relying on has been almost the same for many years in terms of trying to repair or replace a non-conforming structure. This is not something that came into the ordinance just this year, or I think even last year, because I know we've dealt with that. Oh, many years ago, we dealt with 2 or 3 issues very similar, and that 1-year period only applies when the structure starts out non-conforming and something happens to it that you need to fix, whatever it is. And that's not the case here, because you moved it off. So I think you're going to be better off if we can talk a bit with you and with Bob about, is there another alternative that might be available to you here? Now, I heard what you said about creating the other lot, but if I you don't have to sell, the lease runs out. If you choose, you can rejoin that lot with your current lot. So let's say you create a to yourself and your sister, or yourself and a corporation that you own and control, or somebody that will do what you want them to, and you lease it to
Right.
You have the ability at that point to say, okay, I'm gonna, you transfer it right back to yourself. That's why I was trying to explore with you a little bit about, the thought of another lot, and you can even do that in going down that path. And in that regard, I don't know if Bob should be able to answer this for us. If someone creates a lot in Durham, do they have to hire a surveyor, or can they, just shoot the meets and bounds and get a description up for themselves? Because that would obviously save some money if you didn't have to use a professional surveyor to create the lot's boundaries. So that question for Bob.
I've always requested a survey for a lot split.
Mm-hmm.
But can you require it, as far as you know? I haven't been able to, get into the ordinances from here as much as I would like. And I couldn't see if anywhere in the ordinance it says no lot can be created in the town without a formal survey by a certified surveyor.
No, it's not in the ordinance.
Okay. And I don't know what surveys cost anymore either. They used to cost a couple $1,000. I don't know if that's
They're quite expensive these days.
I mean,
the
the back lot, for creating one back lot, which is really all that would be needed here, you don't need to have a street plan or a professional engineer plan. you just need to be able to put dimensions and have a driveway that meets certain requirements.
Mhm.
It's, you know, I don't know how that process would compare to a mobile home purchase
Yeah.
and erection
Well,
Yeah.
of a
Before
how,
we,
are
mobile
you,
home on a-
how is somebody going to produce the deed without a survey?
used to do it all the time. If it's, in effect, if it's related parties that aren't going to dispute boundaries,
Yeah.
it happens all the time. That's why
yeah,
some of the laws.
I think your concern, Bob, would be, yeah, I mean, Bob, your concern is well merited. I mean, the lot's not going to be able to be sold. I don't think anyone else, I mean, without that survey. But I'm just
Right.
trying to find a way here, if there is one, to help Mr. Dennison in what seems like a pretty pressing and difficult family situation, to sort of partial, you know, temporarily at least, get him some of the relief he needs, and then the longer term, you know, can be addressed
You know, and
as part of it
I mean, and
also.
I've even looked at, you know, could we, you know, I am absolutely convinced, Mr. Dennison, that, you know, the needs of your mother and the state's definition of a person with a disability would fit here. And there are such things as disability variances. So, you know,
Yeah.
attaching, you know, we can grant disability variances to create access to dwellings, but we can't create a disability variance to create a separate dwelling. So, you know, you'll want to attach the mobile home to your house.
Well, it is in a way. I have my water runs from
But
water
I
runs
hear
from
you,
my
right.
house.
I was trying to think, is there a way, but it really would be twisting and contorting the ordinance. I mean,
Yeah.
and I recognize we're not talking about, and the beauty in some respects of a disability variance is that we're entitled to limit it for a period of time, right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, is there a way, you know, I don't know if your house is accessible, but, you know, if the access to your house is through an accessible mobile home and it's all connected, but that's
Mhm.
also got construction costs. So, you know, it's not if that's not a costless thing, connecting a mobile home to your residence and saying a disability variance could be granted for the purpose, for the durations of the disabled individual's lifetime. But
Yeah.
that would require connecting everything together, which has expenses.
Yeah. So, I think that, you know, that's a little, I think too much. And, you know, my mom, she is 95 years old. And, you know, so she's not going to be here for a long time. But it's also in consideration of my sister, who would actually be purchasing the mobile home. And and you know, so she could take care of my mother for her duration there. And
I'm sorry. Yeah.
what?
No, I'm sorry. I cut you off, Mr. Dennison. I apologize.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, and there's no intention of you know, renting anything or selling anything like that. It's only for, you know, the purpose of being able to help my mom and my sister as well, because she doesn't have a place as well, or won't have in next spring. But so that was kind of why we were doing this. And but she would have the option of if she didn't, you know, after my mother had passed, if she didn't want to stay there, then she could move her mobile home to wherever she wanted to, or sell the mobile home itself, you know. And so that's kind of what our intentions were. But
Heather, you've got a question, it looks like. So why don't you unmute and ask that?
Thanks. This might be for Bob. Does he have room to do a back lot where it needs to be 300 feet of road frontage because the house is in between? So can you see this, Bob?
Yeah,
Okay, so see
Would
the
have to-
shaded part? See the shaded part that I did?
yeah.
Could that count? Could that be like considered the road frontage for him to be able to get the 300 feet so he could do a back lot there? Or does it have to go around his house? And his house
it would
can't
have to-
be included. It
You
would have
can't,
to,
you can't include the house because it's a separate lot. So what he would
I
have to
see.
do is put the right of way on the right-hand side of his property. And the ordinance says it has to be 200 feet deep for 300 feet long. Now, you could put a hammerhead in there so that it wouldn't need to be 300 feet. It could only be 150 with a 50 by 50 by 50 hammerhead. That would give him the 300 feet, but he still has to meet the 200 feet depth for a
okay.
back.
So my other question is, does it have to be in existence, or do you know what I'm saying? Can it just be a right of way that exists but doesn't have to be used?
No, it has to be, according to the ordinance, it has to be a 20-foot wide gravel road in a 50-foot right of way. And that's the ordinance. I mean,
Yeah, that's.
I feel like that's where this more conversation needs to be around this. I feel
the
like
oth- the
I
other
feel like
op-
this is the only way that we're going to be able to make this happen, and I feel like this is where the conversation needs to be.
Right, but that's, Heather, that's not us. That's, we basically vote to grant the variance or not grant the variance. And then it becomes between Mr. Dennison and Mr. Dennison to apply for a back lot and do the work. We don't weigh in on its creation or not.
Okay.
We don't,
The-
I mean.
Mr. Dennison, is this a conversation that you're willing to have with Bob further in trying to figure out ways to make this happen through a back lot?
The only other
I'm not
option,
gonna-
I don't mean to
Go ahead.
interrupt you, Alvin, but the only other option is to put an addition on the house,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
which can only be 50% of the house. But I think that the planning board would approve a larger
No,
addition.
we get to do a disability variance in that respect, I think, an addition on the house with access. I think we kind of that can work in a much different way, but it means construction.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
So that might be an option for us. I'd have to get everybody to consider it, of course. And but at this point, we're not going to be able to do anything. So, but I'm not really not interested in making another lot because in the end, the long run, I don't want to have to sell two lots or.
can I ask
deal
a
with two
question?
lots.
Why would there be any limitation on the size of an addition? There's no frontage issues, is there? He could make he doesn't have neighbors, but I mean, it seems to me the lot is big enough. He could add an addition. There's no non-conformance to the existing structure is my point. Bob? Why would there be a limit on what he could add on to the house?
Bob still with us?
Yeah, I will. Oh, he may be gone, but I don't know. I asked that because I don't think it's a non-conforming structure at all. Is it?
No, not the house. The
Right.
house is,
Right.
No.
You meet setbacks from the road, you meet setbacks from the lot line. So I don't even think there's an issue with getting a permit for an expansion on the dwelling. It just, you know, the in-law apartment concept or something like that. I
Right.
mean, I think what we're saying, Mr. Dennison, is the sense of the board, at least those of us who have spoken, and we haven't heard from Milt and we haven't heard from Terry. I should say that both Paul and Heather are alternates. Because we have a quorum, we always allow our alternates who are gracious in giving up their time for meetings to ask questions, to
Absolutely.
weigh in. But really the voting members of the board are Mr. Clark, Mr. Wood, Mr. Simon, Mr. Kirk, and I. But we haven't heard from Mr. Simon or Mr. Kirk about, you know, about the variance application. But I think you're getting the sense that we
Yeah.
just don't see how we can do it. But
Yeah.
Milton, Terry, if you wanted to weigh in,
Oh, Barbara,
yes.
with the existing ordinances the way they are, and without creating a backlot, I really can't see how this can go.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Milt,
I don't have anything to add. I'm not knowledged at the moment as far as, you know, the variance options. I do agree with what's been said previously. The fact that the trailer, you know, had been removed back in 2007. I don't think that the section C is addressing it the way Mr. Dennison is reading it. I think the fact that he removed that structure, he removed that mobile home back in 2007. I don't think he gets, because there's nothing there, I don't believe he gets now, you know, an extra year or an extra 3 years based on the start of a new ordinance. I don't have anything else to add.
and Bob, I think you went away for a minute there, but I was just wondering why there needs to be a limitation on any addition. I mean, this is really just conversation, because it doesn't appear to be a non-conforming structure. He could make additions that are, and you know, whatever.
Yeah, he can. And
Okay.
the reason that I gave him that section of the ordinance is that's the only place it talks about replacing a structure.
Okay. No, that's fine. But I mean, if he wanted to make an in-law apartment addition or put on an extra bedroom or whatever, that's just your basic building permit on a conforming structure on a conforming lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So I wonder whether, I mean, we've given you, Mr. Dennison, I think you get a sense from the board that we don't agree with your interpretation on the non-conforming use provision and the 3-year
Yep.
period and hereafter. But we have, you know, talked about some options that you might have to do what you
Yes.
need to do, which is important. So I wonder, you know, both Paul and Heather, I'm grateful that you were here and that you know, gave input and talked about your interpretation and gave some ideas. We don't need to designate either of you as voting members for the purpose. Does someone want to entertain a motion on this to provide a motion, and we can do a roll call vote?
I move that we deny the variance because it fails to meet any of the requirements in the ordinance to obtain a variance, and that we, I think that's what I'll just leave the motion there.
I'll second it.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Mr. Clark. I mean, is there any more discussion, I guess I should say? Is there any more discussion on the motion? Seeing that there's
Not for
not,
me.
okay. Oh,
Dean, your mic is, Dean's mic is
muted.
muted.
So I think Dean may need a little bit of assistance, maybe to unmute, but maybe Dean, do you know how to use the chat? You could probably say yes in the chat. Oh, can you unmute? No.
Could Dean raise his hand if he's in agreement?
Right.
Yeah, he can, let him raise his
Do you
hand.
agree with the motion? Yeah. Yes, one. He does. Is that a yes? Yes, okay. Dina, okay, Terry,
Yeah,
Milt,
Yes.
Gary?
Now we're unmuted.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and I also agree. All right, and you know, what our usual practice is, Mr. Dennison, is that the minutes will reflect just the bare bones, but I will write, as I usually do, a brief opinion explaining. You obviously, you do have the right to appeal this. You've got, and the ordinance will say, but I do think some of these other things we've talked about are much, would be a much more cost-effective route for you to pursue. I think, you know, we recognize the need for you to provide for your mother. We do. And we want to have that done in a way that comports with our ordinances. And I think there are ways to do that. And it may not be the way you want it to, but it will potentially allow as cost effectively a solution.
Okay, well, thank you much.
Well, we appreciate it. And again, I
Entertaining
you.
my
thank you for
deal
bringing this to us.
Good luck.
for your
Okay.
time.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, good luck, Mr. Dennison.
Thank you very much.
Move
Dan,
that we adjourn.
okay, second, is there a second to that motion?
second,
Okay, we'll do a roll call again. Dean? Vote on the motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Okay,
motion to return.
Carrie?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and Gary? He made the motion. I'm assuming he votes yes.
Gary.
Gary?